Straight 16th funk beats. I say Nate Smith in the title, but really we're talking about Clyde Stubblefield, James Gadson, Harvey Mason, Mike Clark, Lenny White, and these highly addictive funk beats are seeing a resurgence these days from drummers like Nate, and also Corey Fonville, Adam Deitch, Ash Sohn, Yusuf Days, and others. Here's what I'm talking about. It's not linear. It's got almost constant 16ths in the lead hand. And while that's happening, the other hand is doing ghost notes, drags, all kinds of funkiness. These beats sound amazing, and they're a crucial tool for a good drummer to have in their toolkit. But to a lot of drummers, they seem out of reach. For some obvious reasons, and some less obvious ones I'll tell you about. For starters, let's state the obvious. One-handed 16ths. That drop, catch, push, pull, Muller stuff that can look like magic. A lot of drummers can barely play that with both hands, so these uber funky grooves seem forever out of reach. But as I'll explain, there's actually a pretty easy trick to defeat the constant 16ths. You cheat. You just leave notes out. And there's a way to do that sounds good and a way that sounds lame. So make sure you keep watching for that. But there's actually a bigger, more fundamental reason you might not be able to play Nate Smith beats very well. And even if I waved a magic wand and gifted you Isaac Jamba's right hand, it still wouldn't fix the issue. Luckily though, we have the fix. And I've now coached close to a dozen students through the system. And today, I'll show it to you, with, as always, free transcriptions for download at the link below the video player. Oh, I'm Nate, and this is the 80/20 Drummer. Today on the channel, the real reason you can't drop the funk like Nate, and what to do about it. Stay tuned. Let's start with the disclaimer. Of course, some system doesn't magically give you the intangibles that Nate, Corey, Ash, Adam, and others have. The musical instincts. But it can get you over a bunch of technical hurdles, and a bunch of know exactly what to play when ones. So you can spend your time fine-tuning your feel instead of struggling with the basics. With that out of the way, let's cut to the chase. The most difficult thing about playing funk beats, like Clyde, James, Mike, Lenny, Nate, and Corey. Chapter 1, the challenge. The reason you probably can't play like these folks is not one-handed 16ths. It's the bowling alley. Let me explain, and we'll put a timer on the screen counting down to back to drums. A bowling alley is a long, convex strip of hardwood with gutters on either side. To hit the pins, the ball needs to roll down the alley without falling into either of the gutters. When you first start out bowling, avoiding the gutters is all you can do. As you get better, you stop worrying so much about that and start worrying more about shot shape to hit more pins. I'm not a bowler, but I have seen Big Lebowski and Kingpin. So let's end that timer. How is this like funk beats? Let's say I give you a very simple beat to play. 2 and 4 on the snare, 1 and 3 on the kick, and 8s on the hats. Your dad's rock beat. You can probably play this pretty well without having to stop or getting mixed up in glitching, which is to say playing something you didn't intend. That's like rolling a ball safely down the middle of the alley. You won't hit the gutters, but it's pretty conservative, which is to say the margin for error is huge, because you're not really doing anything besides boom chick. On the other hand, say I ask you to play something like this. The odds you'll have a glitch and have to stop go up a bunch. A glitch is like getting tongue-tied when you think you're going to say one word, then change it the last minute, and the word comes out garbled like a hybrid of 2 words you intended. Only for drums. It's what it feels like to get behind the ideas. And it's the equivalent of trying to hit a spare by hitting a pin on the corner of the alley. If glitching is a gutter ball, you're flirting with disaster. The moving parts, the higher margin for error. What this all means. Most drummers are worried, is my lead hand fast enough when they think about playing these grooves? What they should be worried about is, how do I keep this going without falling off the rails? Luckily, there's a simple answer to both. Chapter 2, what to do. I'm going to show you step 1 of this, then explain it. But first, here's the finished product. You dig? Okay, instead of giving you an exercise, I'm going to give you an algorithm. Here we go. I start here. Eighth notes on the hats, snare on 2 and 4. That's home base. If this is easy for you, great. If you need to practice your timing or get your snare sounds consistent, use this option to do it. And I want you to notice something. There is no bass drum yet. Ready for option 2? Option 2. Play a series of 2/16ths on the hat starting on one of the eighth notes. Effectively, this will sound and feel like 3 notes, the 2/16ths joined to the following eighth. That's why we call it the 3-note group. And we're not allowed to play more than 2 consecutive 16ths, yet. We can do this starting on any eighth of the bar. I'll demonstrate starting it on all the eighths of the bar. Then I'll riff for a little while, playing it in musical places. Now you may realize, this is no longer an exercise you can write out and copy verbatim. You now have to choose what you're going to do as you're playing it. You have the option to play this 3-note group or not play it on any of the eighths of the bar. I heard the term degrees of freedom on some science-y podcast once, and I like it for this. You have degrees of freedom. And if all this seems like a lot to take in, just think of it as a menu, not a math problem. You can choose simple things to do at first. You don't have to do all the options right away. Okay, last option for phase 1 of this. Optionally, on the 3rd note of any of your 3-note groups with the hand, you can play a single bass drum note. You don't have to, but you can. And you can play that kick drum note no matter where it lands in the bar, including if it's at the same time as the snare. I'll cook for a minute exploring the possibilities. I think this is enough for a few days of practice. When I give this to students, this is usually a half week worth of material. Now, let's pause. Chapter 3, why this approach? Some of you might be asking, why not just give us a beat to learn? Okay, let's listen to Mike Clark. Are any 2 bars exactly the same? Let's listen to Nate. Same thing. In the real world, the thing that makes these beats challenging is that they're not always just a 2-bar loop you can repeat verbatim. And even if you could, the great drummers don't. They change the phrase within the beat. And when you have to change up the beat, it's the bowling alley. If you don't stick to the script and roll it right down the middle, you could end up in the gutter. You could end up glitching. Why? It's hard to practice beats that vary. You're caught between 2 things, neither of which gets you exactly where you want to go. Failure mode 1, not enough scenarios. To get better at something, we have to rep it. I assume if you're watching this, you're bought into that, right? If you want to get better at single strokes, you practice your single strokes. But what happens when the real-world application of what you want to do is complex, and includes making choices about what to play in real time, as Corey Fonville is doing here? If you just rep a loop or simple beat, you're only repping one of 1,000 possibilities. Then, just like the bowling alley, everything outside of that is a danger zone, because you don't have any muscle or musical memory there. So, why not just practice riffing, stream of consciousness, with no guardrails? Well, then we get into failure mode 2. Not enough specific reps. When we practice with no guardrails, we have potentially infinity possibilities to worry about. How are you supposed to rep that? Like, let's say you're playing along and some combination hangs you up, and you glitch and have to stop. How do you make sure you practice all the potential possibilities that could mess you up, when your problem set is everything ever? Enter the algorithm. The answer is you practice specific things with specific degrees of freedom, like our 3-note groups. You can play them or you can choose not to, but it's a specific thing. That keeps the problem set small enough to rep all the high-frequency possibilities. But the freedom to choose, the degrees of freedom, gives you practice choosing what to play in real time. I'm going to say the I word, improvising. so that when you want to vary and change up the beat in real life, you're not choosing between one very well-trod path that's boring and repetitive and changing it up, which is highly risky because you never practiced it. So that's the big reason we do this. The other reason is the lead hand thing. I told you earlier the way to avoid having to play a continuous 16ths for the entire song was to cheat, but to cheat in a musical way. With this system, we're learning musical places to rest, and as we add on to it, it will start to resemble more and more what the real pros do. We good? Okay, let's keep building our algorithm. Chapter 4, the next steps. So we've got our eighth notes, our backbeat, our 3-note groups, and our potential kick drum placement. Still seems pretty simple and artificial compared to what the real pros do, right? But think of it like a digital recording. At low resolution, you're drawing rectangles to follow an analog curve, and it's not a very good reproduction. But the more rectangles you can draw, the closer it is to the analog curve. And with drum beats, it's a lot less complex than sound waves. You don't need that many rectangles, which is to say, possibilities, before the algorithm beat starts to resemble just regular playing. But we control the inputs the whole way. With that in mind, let's iterate our algorithm. The next step is a group of 4/16ths followed by an eighth, the 5-note pattern. As with the 3-noter, you can play it starting on any eighth of the bar. I'll permutate it a little. Crucially, just as in the 3-note pattern, 2/16ths have to be followed by 1/8, with the 5-noter, 4/16ths have to be followed by 1/8. Otherwise, you could just make runs of 16ths of any length through a loophole in the rules, like wishing for more wishes with the genie, and the algorithm would lose its ability to constrain our possibilities so much. Next option. On the 4th note of any of the 5-note patterns, you can optionally play a kick drum. Let me cook for a minute with just the home bass beat and the 5-note possibilities. Now, let's introduce the 3-noter back into the mix. If we stop here, we've already solved the two major problems. First, with those mandatory 8th note pauses, we've solved the problem of your hand getting tired, at least at most tempos. You can choose within the algorithm where to play 16ths and 8ths, so you get rests at musical/idiomatic places. Second, we've created a constrained environment with degrees of freedom, where you can get reps improvising within the beat, but with a finite set of possibilities, so you know there won't be any dark corners you haven't touched. But I bet you have another question. What if I want to do something that's not in the algorithm? Easy answer. Add it. Chapter 5, Advanced Applications. We've now got a framework to hold improvisation in midair so you can rep it, but that doesn't mean we can't keep adding things on. Eventually, your algorithm can include every realistic thing you'd ever want to do in this beat. And after enough time with these, they will eventually fade into the background, and then you're just cooking on a beat. But what if you're on the opposite side, feeling a bit overwhelmed? If this feels like a lot, that's normal. You already have more than enough to work on. Everything from here on out is optional. Let's cover some extra steps I like. Extra step 1, ghost offbeats. Optionally, put a ghost snare stroke on the second beat of the 3 or the 5-note hand pattern. I like to make an extra rule that we only do this where it would not cause a double snare note, but eventually you can take away that guardrail. Extra step 2, ghost drags. Here we get to one of the most idiomatic and funky things about the real-life funk beats of Clyde, Harvey, Nate, Corey, and others. The little drags. To put these into the algorithm, let's put them in the same place as the ghost strokes. So on the second hand beat of the 3 or 5 note group, you can optionally do nothing else. You can do a ghost note, or you can do a little 30-second note drag thing. Let's hear what that sounds like. Extra step 3, swing it. Do all this, but with swung 16ths. For option 3A, you can change the drags to 2 sextuplets for a Bonham Porcaro-ish vibe. And that's how you get the gig! All right, do you guys dig that? Do you like the lesson? Do you like it? Leave a comment below. Polite if you want. And dudes, just a reminder that everything in this lesson that we played that requires transcription is transcribed for you. And you can get that for free by clicking the link below the video player and telling us where to send it on the next page. Dudes, it's been real. Always enjoy these. See you again real soon in another lesson of the week. Aye, Patty. I'm freezing my turkish off. Oh, it's so cold. Come on! Why is the heat not working?
A few moments later.
Is it finally warm enough in here after 3 hours? That's great. Good job. Good job, heat.